Hello everybody and welcome back to another WorldPainter tutorial. I've gotten many questions about how to put structures and custom trees onto your map. So therefore, here's the video for that. So I went ahead and just painted the map just a little bit to give it a little more shape. So first you'll need to make sure that you're within the layers tab. At the very bottom right below read only, there is a plus sign that says add a custom layer. From here you'll see a mini GUI pop up where you'll need to click on Custom Object Layer. That will bring up this pop-up box where you can rename it, choose grids, and etc. But first, let's go ahead and add stuff to the box. As you see, as you're looking through your stuff, you'll see a schematic pop up to the right side. The schematics will show you how each one looks from one direction. You cannot turn it, but you can, in fact, look at it and move it around like this. However big this is however big it is, you cannot expand or move it. All you can do is zoom it out and zoom in. We're going to go ahead and test with this tree. Here you'll see that the schematic is now visible. It's the same thing here. You cannot rotate this to see different directions. We'll start with the first option for the grid. For the grid, it's kind of like a chunk. You'll see that as you change it, trees will do lessen or gain. So if you want to give more options for your trees, you can always double click on the object. Here you'll see another pop-up come up. The offset is where your tree is located. So the X, Y, Z, excuse me, and then Y. If you have roots, I do recommend making sure that Y is down, so that way your tree doesn't look strange. And you'll see that change in the last pop-up as well. For the placement, you want to make sure it's always relative to terrain or a fixed height if you have a flat surface. But I would keep it relative to terrain so it touches the terrain if possible. Relative frequency is just how frequent this specific schematic will place within this layer. So if you only want this tree to show up 50% of the time, then you set it at 50%. But for random rotation and random mirroring and on solid land, I'd go ahead and keep those checked. You can check on air, underwater, on water, under lava, and on lava, depending on what schematic you're trying to place. If you have something you want underground, you have to make sure that you specify underwater. Otherwise, it's going to try to place that schematic right on top of the water or none at all. So depending on what exactly you're trying to do, if your schematic belongs on air, like in the air, make sure to set the spawn on air so it kind of knows exactly how to export it when you're exporting your world. But this is how you edit specific schematics. And as you can see, when I press OK, that -3 will push this down by 3 blocks, and you'll see it changed here. So updates, there you go. And as you can see now, it's just the trunk kind of sticking out. I would say kind of keep 1 on these trees or 2, whatever. It doesn't matter, just depending on your preference. But okay, I went ahead and just added in these watchtowers for the pillagers to kind of just show an example of a different schematic in a tree. So for this would be something that I would set to relative frequency of something low. I wouldn't do something high on these, especially if you're mixing it in with a forest. So that means if it's set at 10%, you'll see here that they'll just disappear. They'll be like less. I do not recommend placing structures this way unless you plan to do like a huge biome with like towers that are everywhere throughout the biome, especially since the terrain is uneven and it doesn't always sit flush on the ground. So if you plan to have a forest with a ton of these structures in it, sure, I recommend setting them at 1% or whatever and placing them this way. But otherwise, I would recommend using World Edit or Foie. I wouldn't recommend using WorldPainter for placing schematics with the brush. I just wouldn't recommend it. It's not very user friendly. And depending on what intensity you set for the brush settings will also depending on what all spawns. you may not even get a structure. It'll be picky and choosy. I do recommend if you're setting like 1 or 2, I don't recommend using WorldPainter, especially if you're not experienced with it. You can definitely try and tweak it, but it'll never be perfect. So we can see kind of how it works, because I've never used that option. For all I know, it makes it so you don't have to have it flush. And if that's the case, I'll learn something new too. But this is how you place the layers for trees in schematics. It's the exact same way. So I'm gonna go ahead and just paint this on the map, and I'm gonna export it, and I'll show what it looks like in game. So yes, this is set at 50% on WorldPainter, and as you can see, there's structure after structure after structure. It's definitely something you'll have to tweak around with if you're wanting to place structures. Since it's at 50%, it's kind of like it's, I would say, the master relative frequency of everything. So I do recommend World Edit if you do plan to place structures, but otherwise, for the extending terrain to foundation, I think it does pretty well with it. It looks like it looks like maybe it fits in. It literally does extend to the ground, which I don't remember. I think it was McMidden is where I got these structures from. I think I purchased them off their Patreon, and they use structure blocks for their stuff. So if you don't want structure blocks, you'll need to save your own stuff. And there's a way to do that. I can make a tutorial for that if anyone's interested. But otherwise, I do recommend going to McMidden's Patreon and purchasing this stuff. Again, kind of like this. I made 2 different layers here. And now I'll just go ahead and come over here to the master intensity, and I'll turn that sucker down like very far into it. Like 1%. So then when I paint it, I'll kind of paint it around everywhere still, but I'll make it a little more spotty. So it'll spawn, but it'll be less likely to group up as it was doing before. I'm gonna go and export this so I can show you what I'm talking about. All right, so I went ahead and loaded into it. As you can see, it is a lot less of these watchtowers. There's one like over that direction, one over that direction, and there may be one over there. So it's a lot less than there was before. So I do think that if you want to play schematics in your world, then you need to make sure that you are doing it using like its own layer. That's how you place structures in WorldPainter. And if you're wanting to get schematics, I do recommend playing Minecraft. Feel free to check out mine down in the description, and I'll go and have the website just linked. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and like and subscribe. Thanks, and bye!